Welcome. I am the Overlord, of course, and I'm here because I want to just talk about my thoughts on Bayonetta 1 versus Bayonetta 2. A new versus old sort of thing, but also legally distinct from another popular show that may go by that sort of moniker on the internet. Anyway, I had the pleasure recently of playing Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch. You got both games for the price of one, so I figured why not? It's an action game. I could use some actiony stuff, and I was really curious because back in college, a little story about me here. I remember doing a report sort of examining like misogyny in video games and whether or not Bayonetta sort of fits that criteria. It was a new release at the time and people were talking about it. It's a, sexy librarian that, has lots of fan service shots and crotch shots and butt shots in all the cinematics and stuff. And her clothing is her hair, because why not? And, I don't really take too kindly to the sort of weebish, soft core, like, it's technically not porn, so it's okay to oogle it sort of ideal, because I'm firmly in the camp of, like, if you want to look at porn, just look at some hardcore, kinky porn. No one's gonna judge you for that stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. Just go. Go to your heart's content. And because of that, I never really gave the game a chance. At least not through college. I was like, I don't know, it's just probably a bunch of weirdos that are saying that it's good because, sexy woman. And one of the things about being a nerd is that you hear a lot of things about a lot of games and stuff, but no one has the skills to explain why they enjoy something. They can't articulate why it's good. They just say it's good and you have to play it. OMG, what's wrong with you? Oh, it's the best thing ever. And, I'm guilty of that with certain games, with some friends that make fun of me now, because it turns out that some of those games in retrospect weren't really that good. Back to our favorite witch and her series of, so far, 2 games. I played both of them back to back, and I definitely had some thoughts on which one is better, so you might be able to guess which one I'm going to say, but let's go through it. The first Bayonetta, I was surprised when I was playing it because it was very, very much like Devil May Cry. It was published by Capcom. I'm pretty sure it had a lot of the same sound effects when you got new weapons and stuff. I think it did the same sort of like swooshy thing that it does in at least like the first Devil May Cry when you get new stuff. It was very much felt like a slightly less puzzle-based, slightly more action-based version of that. And the cutscenes, especially at the beginning, really get you invested in it. They just throw all of this action at you, and I was surprised with just how campy everything was. Like, I knew it was a ridiculous action game, but it, doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it's perfect. In that sort of way that the Marvel movies, their style of humor with storytelling is they don't take itself too seriously, but they take themselves just seriously enough to tell the story when they need to, and Bayonetta 1's no exception to that. It was, you start out, and there's a nun praying over a gravestone, and you have this Joe Pesci guy, everything's I'm so down on my luck all the time, like that sort of comic relief dude, just given some exposition, and then the angels start to come down from the heavens, and lo and behold, it was a trick. And Bayonetta goes and just starts beating the crap out of tons and tons of angels. And then the gravestone opens and, you see Rodin, which is the shopkeep of the game. He is has this casket just filled to the brim with handguns. And he's constantly throwing, and Bayonetta's I need guns, and shooting them and breaking them and stuff. And he keeps tossing her more and more guns and stuff. And that just sets the pace of the game. And you learn a lot along with Bayonetta about who she is and sort of what she's doing in the world there, because she was asleep for 500 years and has amnesia, and so you're discovering things about herself at the same time that she's discovering those things about herself, and I think that really works as part of the more dramatic side of the narrative. And you meet some more characters along the way, and they show up at the opportune times, but all the while, it seems like someone's trying to impede your progress or get you to awaken some sort of power. And that's where these really, really big bosses come in. And in the first Bayonetta, I remember pretty much all of them. Like you have like Temperance, which is the dragon, the two dragon dude thing monster, and then you have that annoying one with the little squiggly fingers that comes back, and you have to like kill another one in a part of a railgun section, which is it didn't control that great in the Switch version. I did not like that section. You have the, what is it, Justice or something, like the water one where you're just surfing on a piece of a metal plane in the middle of the ocean, and it's good stuff. I remember all of those bosses, and you get to the last boss and you fight a dude, and you also fight another witch, a mysterious Jeanne, and she's sort of antagonizing you, but at the same time, Bayonetta's figuring out, like, how to use her magic through these fights, so there might be something else there. And regardless, you get to the end and you fight a couple of dude fights, which are all right. They're very much intensive, like dodging, high action, not a lot of break. And then you get these big boss fights that, just mix things up in a little bit of a different way. And I really like how they did that with like the floating platforms that you have to jump across and stuff like that. And then you get to the final boss of the game, and it's just this massive, like humanoid creature thing that has these like scars that like stab down at you, and the environment is constantly changing around you, and it really does put things into perspective for an awesome final cinematic clash. And ultimately, the game is tough. The game is very hard. I was suspicious of the whole, like, one-handed mode that you could, play the game with only one hand. Ha-ha! So you could, at the time I figured, and some people probably did, wank off with the other hand. But, yeah, the game is tough as nails, and it takes a long time to get into the ebb and flow, and even then, there are some sort of BS QuickTime events that I didn't really like. So, like, it's rewarding once you get it down, but Jeezy Pete's, I'd be a happy, happy man if I never saw Gracious and Glorious again. Let me tell you that. And then we have Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta, short haircut, no longer looks like the sexy librarian, but still rocks it, Starts out in what I would assume would be like Manhattan or something in New York, and it's like close to Christmas, and Bayonetta's doing some shopping, and she's making the down on his luck like Joe Pesci guy carry all her stuff, and it's some nice little slapstick. And this was a Wii U exclusive game, and I know that when it was coming out and it was heard that Bayonetta 2 would be on the Wii U and be a Nintendo system and published by Sega now instead of Capcom, people were like, oh no, they're gonna like make it a basically Kitty Mario sort of game. And I think the devs heard that feedback, and so they used the F word as many times as they could in that opening cutscene. And it's pretty good. You basically, there's some crazy jets, and then you're fighting on top of jets and stuff. And your witch sister, Jeanne, now that you're BFFs after the first game, she jumps in and you're having a good time. The music's not quite as good. I definitely liked a lot of the music from the first game more so than the second, but the second one's serviceable too. And then one of your demons that you summon to like kill the bosses and big enemies, where you have to do the quick like button mashing thing to charge up the power, and it's really, it's kind of silly, but it does add to the intensity and the fun of the combat. I do have to admit that. The dragon thing comes out, eats some stuff, and then for some reason it just goes berserk, and and starts attacking you. So, long story short, Jean is in trouble in hell, and you have to punish your naughty dragon friend, and then go to hell to save her. And that's kind of the premise, and they introduce one of the new, like, boss fight mechanics in this preliminary mission, which is flying mode. You basically grow wings, and then you fly around sort of at a focused, almost on rails-ish segment. Like, you fly closer and further away from the boss to dodge attacks and get hits into the big boss head and stuff, and the bosses telegraph their attacks so you know when to dodge to activate the witch time. It's nice that, coming from the first one, most of your moves that you've unlocked in the first game are already unlocked. You don't have to worry about learning how to do the Panther run again or anything like that. So there's a plus in that. Then after that, it's you go to this town to try to find the gates of hell, and you meet this mysterious boy, and it feels kind of the same as meeting the mysterious girl in Bayonetta 1, but there seems to be less character. I think they're trying to make it more about the boy than Bayonetta. And then you run through a town, kind of like you did in the first one. It's a different town, though, and it looks nice. The water effects are fantastic, especially considering, it's on the Wii U. And then you fight another boss after a few missions, and it's alright. Like, you're surfing on this, like, whirlpool thing, and you dodge some buildings, and then you go inside it and dodge some more buildings to fight this, like, snaky dragon thing. And then you're just fighting this big snaky dragon thing and a couple other big snaky dragon things in your flight mode. And that's it. You do that a lot. It's like, oh, we have this big boss for you. And then it's like, oh, you're just in flight mode. The bosses don't seem to have as much impact. And even the final boss, the final boss, I don't want to spoil too much here, but there's no big honkin' demon or something. Like, at least for the end of the story mode. You're just there and you fight a dude and then he becomes a dude, and the same goes for when you're rescuing Jean. You fight a dude and then it becomes a slightly bigger dude, but you're still, like, it's still the same thing. You're still in the same play space, the same arena, if you will, and it just loses a lot of the impact. I was actually quite disappointed in the ending that, you take down the boss and there's no epilogue or anything. It's just like, wait, that's it? Like, where's the big, larger-than-life enemy that you have to send into the freaking sun from the edge of our solar system? Like, where's that? Gameplay-wise, though, it was a lot simpler, a lot easier. I don't think I died once throughout the story mode, and only used healing items a couple of times. It's nice that it didn't punish you for using items in this game. It didn't affect your end score or your end rank. So that's I like that aspect, and enemies did less damage than what they probably would in the first Bayonetta. So again, makes things a little easier, makes it easier for newcomers to pick up and play and sort of get into the ebb and flow and the action, because if you always want more, if you always want a challenge, there are a lot of extra difficulty modes in these types of games. But I will say one of the unfortunate side effects of the game being simpler and easier is that even the big, like, demon attacks and stuff like that, and your torture attacks where you have to, like, mash a button or rotate the joystick really quickly to, like, build up the extra damage and extra combo, those are super easy. Like, you're just kind of, like, tapping along and then you're done. You can pretty much get a perfect or a max bonus every single time in Bayonetta 2, which was nice in some aspects, but it took away some of the frantic, like, oh man, I got him on the ropes, just gotta power, just gotta mash, and it took away a lot of the fun of that for me by making it too simple. It was nice to see, once you beat the story mode, see some of the old weapons that you got from the first game into the second game too, and they play just as they did before, so it was a nice throwback. Which actually brings me to one more Bayonetta we need to talk about here. Well, we don't need to, but I want to, and you're still listening, so thanks for that, like and subscribe. And that is Bayonetta in Smash Ultimate. And probably Smash for Wii U, but I didn't play Smash for Wii U. I played Smash Ultimate, so I'm assuming that she's pretty much similar to that. And after playing a game where you're like unlocking, like you can skate around on freaking chainsaws attached to your feet in Bayonetta 2, and you get like Lieutenant Kilgore in Bayonetta 1, which are these massive rocket launchers. And all of these crazy weapons. You have killer ice skates, you have swords, you have like flamethrowers and ice throwers and all of this whole variety of things. And then you get to Smash Ultimate and like you're just using your fists and guns. That's it. There's no, like, I never would have guessed that there were all of these different crazy weapons just by playing Smash Bros. With the character. I mean, I was always happy to see, like, I'm glad that the smash attacks or Madame Butterfly's, fists, like the wicked weaves and stuff like that. That's a really cool touch, and I like that. But that's also kind of basic, What about, like, having a side B that Bayonetta kicks with the Lieutenant Kilgore rocket launcher weapons, and it shoots, like, a barrage of missiles or something, kind of like Samus's side B attack or stuff like that? What happens to some of the other attacks, like maybe your up air is using the twin swords from Bayonetta 2, Rakasha or something like that? Like, there's so many cool things. What happened to the alternate costumes? Why couldn't the alternate costumes be like Jean? That would be really cool, and you can't say it can't be done because a lot of the Fire Emblem characters have boy and girl forms under the same thing. I feel like there could have been a lot more love that was brought into the creation of Bayonetta in Smash Bros. Still cool though, and at least you still get the choice between Soccer Mom Bayonetta and Librarian Bayonetta, and which one looks the best? You can comment below if you want, but we all know Sexy Librarian, yeah, that's definitely the better looking Bayonetta. And that could just be because I enjoyed the first game a lot more. Like, it seemed a lot more refined. Every character had a purpose besides just like, hey, remember me? I'm this character from the other game. Hello. Which I feel like certain characters in the second one were just there to remind you that they existed. And there was so much more that they could have done with the angels and demons attacking. Like, it could have been some crazy thing, but they don't really explain why the demons are attacking you. It's just kind of random. I mean, maybe you can put it together through the plot, but it just didn't have the same impact, You could say the second game didn't make me climax like the first one did. Get it? Because the game's all obsessed with like climax's difficulty and stuff like that. But at the same time, the story's better and kind of important to realize what's going on in the second game, but not so much that you couldn't enjoy the second game without having played the first game. Though you will want to play both to get the complete story. I do like what they did there and how they tied the first two games together with the narrative. That was pretty cool. And ultimately, if you're not huge into action games, and if you're curious, but you're not that confident, then by all means start with Bayonetta 2. It'll give you a better grasp of the controls, a little bit easier to dodge the enemies, and you'll have a better idea of what you're doing when you then go to play the first Bayonetta, which holds up, just as well. I like the red color scheme better in Bayonetta 1. You get Sexy Librarian Bayonetta, and you get some really broken combos with that rocket launcher. It is great, but again, way harder. The special challenge stages, the like Nilfheim versus the Mufelheim or whatever they're called, basically little challenge stages throughout both of the games. The ones in the first game were tough. Like, tough as nails, some of those challenges were. And then the second game, like, maybe one or two gave me trouble, but the rest of them were pretty much beaten it in the first try. And that's pretty much all my thoughts about Bayonetta 1 and 2, and then a little bit on Bayonetta on Smash. So I've been rambling for quite a bit, which means a lot more editing for me. Ugh. So while I'm doing that, How about you like the video and subscribe to the Overlord Empire? That's right, this very channel right here. And if you want to see more, like this, leave a comment in below. I don't read minds. That's one of the few powers I've opted not to take in my demon form because, oh boy. Minds, there's a reason why they should say private. Let's just say that. And if you want to contribute directly to the Empire's treasury, you can go ahead and do so at overlordempire.com or patreon.com/theoverlordempire. I have a Twitter, you can follow me there, and I've been streaming some late night stuff on Twitch. I could still be, or maybe just completed Donkey Kong Country 3 103%, and you can see all of these mega streams re-uploaded in their entirety to this channel right here. So be sure, get out there, watch more of my stuff, and just, have a good time. Stay sexy for the glory of demonkind.